Congratulations getting through Module 5. As we move on to our final and last module, Module 6, all about the continualization and finalization of digital marketing. In this final module, we're going to talk about online review management, email marketing, automated patient communications, and e-commerce. Is it an adversary, or can you actually leverage it to take your business to new heights? All right, and welcome back to Module 6, which is the continuation of Module 5 with Digital Marketing Continued. Today, we're going to talk about the online review management, email marketing, patient communications, and e-commerce. So, am I right? Can nothing wreck a perfectly good day more than receiving a negative review on your Google My Business page? But mismanaging your online reputation can actually be detrimental to your business, never mind your day. And so this section is just about how to get more positive reviews and how to handle when you do end up getting a negative review. So the first thing I get asked all the time, no, you cannot take down a negative review. As much as you want to, they're there to stay. What you can do, if you truly believe that it is not real, that it is somebody who's made a false review, there is a little red flag in the corner and you can flag it as suspicious and Google will look at it. But there is nothing you can do about taking down a negative review. So Google does look at legitimacy, but what they're looking at is this reviewer a real person? Have they created an account before? Have they left others a review? Or did they just create the account to leave you a poor review? If that's the case, sometimes you can win. In most cases, negative reviews do stay. But what you can do is handle the negative review professionally, which is really important. And I'm going to give you some examples. So the first thing we got to do is we have to set up notifications so that you know when a review is left for your business. And you want to do this on all platforms. So Google, you can do this, Yelp, Facebook. I also set up what's called Google Alerts. And Google Alerts is a sort of a subscription based through Google that tells you when any website is mentioning your name specifically or your company name or other associates in your practice. And so what I do is I use it every day, and I have a report come in every day on certain topics, keywords, businesses that I keep an eye on, and Google sends me a notice. So you can do this with your business so that you know exactly when somebody is speaking about you online. The other thing I want to mention is to have an average rating of 5 stars across the board, it's almost unbelievable. So I want you to know that it's okay to have a score below 5. In fact, I think anywhere between sort of 4.6, 4.7, and 4.9, 4.95 is a great place to be. Because if you have a ton of 5-star reviews and no negative reviews, sometimes it creates mistrust. Because people understand we're all human, we make mistakes, and we also understand the people that go there, the customers, are not always sharing the same opinion as me, so just negative reviews happen. But if we see a 5-star across the board, 100 reviews, and nothing is ever gone wrong, sometimes we don't believe it. So it's okay to be in that 4.7, 4.8, 4.9 range. And so that's really where you want to aim for it to be. When prospective patients are evaluating these reviews, and reviews do matter, people are going online, they are evaluating the reviews to decide whether or not they want to do business with you. When they come across a negative review, they're going to do a couple things. Number one is they're going to ask themselves, does this review resonate with me? And is this the same issue that I care about? An example is I once saw a 1-star review because the practice wasn't open on Sundays. And so simply because they weren't open on Sundays, this person left a review. They'd never been to the practice before. They just felt that they should be open on Sundays. So they left a review saying not open on Sundays. So if it's me and I would choose not to have an eye exam done on a Sunday anyway, maybe that's a family day, that wouldn't bother me. So just to see that review, it wouldn't resonate with me. And it'd be okay to see a negative review because it doesn't really impact me. But if it is something that I do care about, service, maybe that's kind of price fishing, like you promised one thing and you changed the price, or there was something to do with, you waited forever, or there was somebody was rude to you, things that do matter. Then they're going to look and say, has the business responded? Have they actually taken the time to respond to the negative review, and not to give their opinion or clear up the facts, but to actually just try to calm the situation? And I'm going to give you some tips here of what happens when you do come across it. First, let's look at how to actually get more positive reviews. And some of the best advice that I've heard, I'm going to pass it along to you, is not to ask directly for a review, especially as a doctor, because in the profession, in a medical profession, it does sort of devalue the service when at the end of it you say, hey, do you mind leaving me a 5-star review? And the analogy I heard was with an Uber driver. So if you've ever taken an Uber, sometimes you can end up having great conversation with the driver. You get to learn about their background, their family, vice versa. And you can actually connect really well with another human being. At the end of the ride, if you've ever had one of those moments, the driver turns around and says, hey, don't forget to give me a 5-star rating. You immediately start to think, was our connection, was the conversation we had genuine, or was that purely just to get a 5-star review at the end of the transaction? And so it sort of devalues the entire experience when somebody asks you to do that. So the advice I'm going to pass along is, when a new patient comes in, ask them, did our online reviews help persuade you in choosing us? And let them tell you whether or not they actually looked at the reviews. And then at the end say, that's thank you for sharing that with me. As being a small business, these online reviews do really matter to us. And then leave the conversation there, because as human beings, we want to help each other, and we want to help out people that help us. And so after having a great experience with an optometrist, knowing that he has kind of said, or she has said, that the reviews matter, in my head, I'm going to keep that sort of top of mind. So when I leave, I'm going to feel obliged to leave a positive review without being asked. And I'm going to do it at the beginning, not at the end. So that's a great sort of piece of advice I received that I'm going to pass on. Other ways that you can actually encourage more positive reviews: send a postcard, like a handwritten thank you card. Maybe send an email, a text message, a phone call, just asking them how their experience was, and if they would like to leave some feedback on the platform. And it's not saying, hey, if it's good, leave us feedback. Just saying, we really do appreciate any feedback you have. If you wouldn't mind sharing your feedback with us, we really look at Google reviews or Facebook reviews, and please let us know how we did there. So you're not asking them to leave a positive review, you're actually just asking them to leave their feedback on that platform. Another thing I've seen that has worked is setting up a tablet at the exit door. So when someone's leaving, it says, how did we do today? Take a minute and let us know. And they can leave their email address, their name, their phone number, and then just a quick rating. And a lot of times what I've seen is an ability to quickly qualify and say, was it a positive review? And you can take them to Google and say, hey, give us your feedback here. Or it could be negative, and you can say, hey, fill out this form, let us know what happened. And your management team will actually receive that well before they make it to social media and leave a poor review. So there's ways to set up a system to encourage positive reviews and also scale down the negative reviews before they happen. But whatever the outcome, I want you to remember to never respond publicly in a negative way to a review. I have seen this happen too many times where it just doesn't go the way that the business owner, the optometrist, was hoping. And the patient will leave a one-sided version of their story, of their experience. And a lot of times we feel like we need to clear up the story, clear up the misunderstanding, tell our side of the story. And I see people give their evaluation of what happened and their version of the story, and then it becomes he said, she said, she said, he said, and it kind of gets pretty nasty. And what ends up happening is you're telling prospective patient, the next patient who's reading this, that you handle your grievances publicly, and you have no problem kind of shaming or trying to put someone down publicly, even if you're in the right, that maybe, and this prospective patient doesn't know whose side is true. What they know is that this was aired publicly, and so they may fear that, hey, if I have a grievance and I go and leave a negative review, are they going to publicly kind of combat me? And so just take it offline, and what I would say is respond with something like, Our goal at Your Practice Name is to always exceed patient expectations. Clearly, we were unable to do that this time. We would love to be able to talk with you offline, find out the specifics of what happened, and come to a resolution. Please email my manager at her email address or his email address. And so I have found that works the best because as a prospective patient, I see that you took the time to respond. You stated your goal that you want to make sure that you exceed expectations and that you are willing to listen and create resolution. Whether it's fair or not to the business, that's what's being outwardly publicized. And so that would be my heavy recommendation on how to handle a negative review. Moving forward, email marketing. And I say this all the time, and I truly believe that every business is sitting on a massive untapped resource that is your database. We all have databases in our businesses, but I don't know if anyone's truly leveraging the opportunity that's in front of us. We're always kind of looking at getting the next customer, the next patient, instead of trying to nurture the relationship we have. And sometimes, and I'll speak for myself, it can be an arrogance thing that you just assume, hey, they're my customer, they're always going to come back, instead of assuming that once the transaction is done, they're up for grabs, they can go somewhere else. And so they're in my database. It doesn't necessarily mean they're bound to me as a patient, and so I have to go and earn that again. And one of the best ways is through email. It's staying in touch, staying on top of mind throughout the period of time in between appointments. And through email marketing, you can do it in two ways. One is promotional emails, the other is personal emails. So let's look at promotional emails. It's a great way to engage your database between appointments. You can use it to promote events. Maybe you're hosting a sale or offering like a benefits campaign. Emailing the database to let them know is both effective but also cost effective. Emailing is not very expensive, and so I would absolutely recommend doing it. The difference between a promotional email and a personal email is a promotional email should be done with graphic design. It should be done professionally so that it looks a certain way to say, hey, come and spend money with me. That's really what you want to use the promotional email for. Where adversely, if we're looking at personal emails, it's a great way to encourage a higher frequency of visits. This one sort of comes from you as the optometrist or you as the office manager, and you can automate this. You can have it say, dear customer name, and actually put in some variable fields that automatically sends them, so you're not having to send a ton of emails every day. But when the patient receives the email, it looks like it was typed out through a personal email, and people really appreciate getting personal emails. And so when they see that, we notice a much higher recall rate and a much higher booking rate. And it's kind of saying, hey, we've noticed that you have lapsed since your last appointment. We'd love to get you in. Please call me directly at this number, and we can actually find a time that works for you. So utilizing different messaging here is really important as well. When you're looking at email providers, there's a couple heavy hitters. There's MailChimp, there's Constant Contact. There's a lot of other options out there. And when you're looking at what it costs, some charge you per email sent, other charges you for just the overall size of your database. But they allow for unlimited email communication. So deciding how often you're going to send out emails, how many you're going to send, all of those should weigh into your decision of which program am I actually going to use. Here's an exercise I would like you to dive into. I want you to plan out your email touch points ahead of time so that you ensure you're taking the necessary steps to execute it properly. So take 5 minutes and plan out which email types you might decide to send throughout the year. And similar to that, I want you to think about a follow-up with your patient that can create deep-rooted loyalty for years to come. The story I'm going to share is my 7-year-old daughter was at school and ended up getting her eye sort of grazed with a fingernail with a fellow classmate. And we ended up going to our optometrist who put in the numbing drops and was able to provide us with other drops. And needless to say, it was a treatment plan. But the next day, I ended up getting a text message asking how my daughter was doing and if, how the drops were working, how the treatment plan was working. And I'll tell you, it sort of made me feel comfortable and sort of endeared to the optometrist because it showed that they cared. more than just a number or a patient that came in. And so it's important to recognize that the everyday for you is not the everyday for the patient. And it might actually be the opposite. The everyday for you might be the extremely rare for the patient. So, a phone call or a text message asking how they are feeling or how the fitting is going, it can go a long way in earning consumer loyalty for the next few years. So in this exercise, I want you to list out all the potential follow-up points that you could make with your patients and when the applicable time frame might be. So in the workbook, the last exercise and this exercise, they're both in there. I want you to take a few minutes and fill out these exercises. And once you've done that, come back and resume the video. All right, so welcome back. And this part is now about communicating with patients and using automation to help in the process. So, communication with your patients, it is absolutely vital to the overall experience. You're talking about some of these large organizations, they spend millions and millions of dollars trying to figure out how to increase brand loyalty and customer retention, and eye care is no different. So, a typical patient you might see every couple of years, maybe one at the most. So how do you stay relevant and valuable to your patient between visits and between appointments? So we've talked about social media, that's one great way, but automating patient communications is another. And we talked about email just a moment ago. That's another way that you can create those automated communications. So there's several softwares on the market that can help you do this. And many of the current softwares that you already have kind of have the functionality built in as well. The key to success here is understanding when you want to reach your patients and what you'll say to them when you do. So there is an exercise in your workbook that looks like this, and it's filling out a table, and you're saying, okay, fill out on the left side all the times when you can communicate with a patient, and on the right is what you might actually say, like physically type out the words that a text message or an email or a phone call script might say. And again, always think about how do we exceed the expectations of our patients that are going to other optometrists and they may not be getting this level of experience. And maybe they've been coming to you and just haven't been getting this level of service. How can you change the game so that you are creating an entire sort of army of advocates, of these patient advocates that are going out and giving you positive online reviews, and they're singing your praises and giving you referrals. And these all attribute to that amazing patient experience that you're after. So take about 5 minutes, maybe 10, maybe 20, and fill out this exercise table. And once you're done, come rejoin. So now that you've built your table, it's about building automated sequences now that help carry these out so there's no manual effort. I have been around the block, I've worked with a lot of practices, and I know that if anything asked to do manual will not get done. At least very rarely does it get done. And so I think it's important that you come to the realization that software is there to help and can absolutely help you with actually launching patient communications. So the hardest part of this is building the workflows. It's coming up with the idea that I'm going to send this patient this email on this date, and then a year from now, I want to send them another one, or 3 months from now, or 6 months. And so, like HubSpot and there's so many different softwares that exist that you can use that it's just building out these sequences and then inputting them in there. Your patient management software probably already has this functionality built as well. So a phone call to them first to see, can I utilize software I'm already paying for? And if not, then look at others. And it was HubSpot, and the one I was struggling with was Infusionsoft. So there's a lot of different options that are out there. When you are writing the text and the content of these messages, ensure that your message is actually on brand to who you are. And don't just say things because it sounds good. Actually be authentic to the personality of your company and of you. So if your brand's playful, be playful, have some fun with it. And look at every touch point with your patient as an opportunity to make an impression. I always say, like, earn their business, earn a referral. Don't assume that because the patient's coming today, they're going to come back in a year, they're going to come back in 2 years. So much is happening, so many competitors are coming out and opening up, and consolidation's happening, that we have to look and say, today we are grateful for the patients we saw, and I'm going to do an incredible job today to earn their consideration to come back. And I'm going to build these automated sequences, these patient communication touch points, whether it's postcards or emails or text messages, that keep me top of mind so I earn them coming back next time. Let's finish sort of with e-commerce. And I know when I do live sessions, e-commerce seems to be kind of the big, scary, elephant in the room. And I want to look at it like, yeah, it's an adversary, I guess, but it's also an option. You have just as much right to launch an e-commerce platform as anyone else. And independent eye care professionals can compete in this space. So, I know looking at somebody like Clearly or Warby Parker, it almost seems impossible to compete with them, but you can. So first I want you to think about concentrate on winning the war with your existing patients. They're the number one people that would actually go and use an e-commerce platform that you build out. Then build out the solutions for various product categories and allow your patients who value online shopping to do so at your stores. So once you have your store built, it may not be about attracting new patients, it's about keeping the dollars already in your business that might have gone elsewhere. So once you have an online store launched, maybe when somebody is, they have a refraction, they have a new prescription, and instead of them capturing them and having them buy new glasses there, they're walking out, give them a business card that says, hey, if you value online shopping, check out our e-commerce store. We have all of our inventory there. It allows you to kind of shop with the luxury of and the convenience of being at home. And if you have any questions, the benefit is that you can buy online, but we can be here to make sure that they fit right. And if you have any issues with the merchandise when you get it, all of our same great guarantees and warranties still apply. So we've taken the risk out of e-commerce while still providing the convenience. And so kind of marrying the two together creates sort of a great tandem and a great value proposition for your patients. And as more and more people turn to online for the retail needs, it does make sense for independent ECPs to try to maintain some of the market share. So when you think about trying to capture this market share, I want you to think about who that consumer is that is wanting to buy eyeglasses online. And think about what price point do they care about. There's probably a high probability this consumer is driven by price and not so much value or service. So when you are evaluating, should I or shouldn't I get into the e-commerce space, ask yourself, do I really want this patient? And earlier we talked about consumer segments and saying there are people that want to be buyers and be customers and be patients only with optometrists and work with independents. And so that's who you're really targeting your whole messaging around. So if you launch an e-commerce knowing that price is a concern, before you go through all of the work and the effort and the resources to invest in that, ask yourself, are you really wanting this type of consumer? Do you want to deal with this kind of person? You may come back and say probably not. And if you let the e-commerce sort of mega giants compete on price, then you can go the other way and build a practice known for high quality products and services. So, the whole world is your oyster. You can go and build an e-commerce site, or you can go the other way and cater to people that never want to buy glasses online. So if you decide you do want to take the step forward and create an e-commerce store, I want you to think about the ways that your business could compete in that space with your existing patient base. And I look at contact lenses as a great first step. You already know their prescription, you already have their all the specifics in your database. They could essentially just upload the fact that they want to reorder, and you could be shipping it right to their door within a matter of hours. And so contact lens e-commerce to me is the best first step. Once you have that mastered, you go through and say, okay, are my patients actually going to be buying things online? Then you can expand to sunglasses and frames, RX, kind of all of that. Now, knowing that many technologies exist that allow your business to build a templated e-commerce solution inclusive of brands and styles. And I have come across so many that already have all the brands that you carry preloaded. You just have to go in the back end and check, decide which ones you have inventory for. You can also do drop shipping, which is somebody buys it online and you have the manufacturer ship it to them. There's a lot of things you can work out with your vendors. But I do recommend highly that VSP has some great partners that provide this service. So before looking anywhere, I want you to look at the partner list for VSP and see which technologies exist, because that's where I would start my search as your primary option. So as we conclude Module 6, I want to take a second to really thank you. This was a great module. I love kind of talking about digital marketing and wrapping it up with e-commerce. And that concludes the end of the course. So thank you very much for taking your time and spending this time with me.